Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday. We're on to session 11. This is Ignite 6.0 for Q2. Session 11, we're talking about following up with leads. If you got questions, please unmute and ask or raise your digital hand. Actually, unmuting would be the best. So we're in the lead follow-up pillar. Monday, we talked about keeping every lead. Today, we're talking about following up with your leads. And of course, we're also going to touch on following through, which is hyper important to do that. We're going to cover learning lead conversion, how to convert a lead into an appointment, improving your conversion rate, and then we'll do some recaps and talk about your ahas. Gary talks about the effort you give to converting leads must match the effort you give to generating them. The effort you give to converting leads must match the effort you give to generating them. So what are we doing to make sure that we're generating leads? Who are we speaking with? Are we talking to people that we know and love and trust? We know the conversion rate of somebody that we're in relationship with, or the conversion rate of somebody who we've been introduced to by somebody we know and love and trust is far higher than an unmet. It takes less time and less money to convert somebody that we know or has been referred to us by someone we know. And beyond that, what energy are we giving to lead follow-up? Making the connection is important. After that, staying connected is where the money is. You'll always hear the fortune is in the follow-up. The millions are in the follow-through, making sure that we continue to stay connected and offer value. The average American moves every 5 to 7 years. How are we showing up in the gap? What are we doing to make sure that they understand that when they're ready, we'll be ready? We're not simply here in case they want to do something today. We're here for when they're ready to do something, whenever. We're on their time frame. We're putting them in our database so we can stay connected with them, not hoping they'll remember us. The lead conversion process. The classic funnel, right? We're going to capture. We're going to connect. If we need to cultivate, we will. And then we'll close. Because more often than not, when we meet people, they're not on the precipice of a transaction. Unless it's an immediate referral. Somebody says, oh, I do know somebody actually. In the book Shift, on page 86, Gary says, consistently getting every possible appointment from the leads you generate isn't complicated. But it does require preparation, practice, and purposeful action. Preparation is understanding the market. Preparation is asking them questions. Preparation is practicing. What does that sound like? That's making sure that we're going over our scripts and conversation blueprints. Being prepared for the objections that we know inherently come up time and time and time again. The objections are rarely something that we haven't heard before once we get into the business. The differentiator between each of our clients is their motivation, their familial makeup, and above and beyond that, the property that they're pursuing or the property that they're listing for that matter. And then purposeful action. Are we consistently staying in touch? Are we consistently staying curious? Are we making sure that they know that we're here to help? Capture, connect, cultivate, close. Sometimes we connect and they're ready to go and we go right to close. But even after close, we want a post-close system in place, right? We'll talk more about that as the class continues in the next few sessions. because we want to get back in relationship with them for their next transaction, maybe an investment, or the next time they move. When we're meeting people, when we're engaging with people, the consideration is everyone. There's an opportunity with everyone. You look at the slide on the left-hand side, possible business. This is when we joke about who you're working with, and people look out the window like, see all the humans out there? I'm going to work with all of them. Maybe we are. More often than not, we're going to work with a percentage of them. But we have to exhaust those conversations with everyone we meet to find out who might possibly be future business. Then we start to nurture them to create probable business. We're going to stay in touch. We find out that somebody's not ready to move forward right away. Their time frame based on their kids being in school, their time frame based on their job location, for a myriad of reasons, they're not doing something right now. They're probable business for the future. And then there's a profitable business. This is one that we can duplicate our efforts, replicate the experience, and consistently deliver time and time again with our standard. So we meet somebody who might be possible business. We nurture the relationship for the probable business, and it becomes profitable when we have a system in place for lead follow-up to consistently stay in touch. Capturing a lead is defined as collecting the minimum amount of valid contact information of a potential buyer or seller. What do we consider minimum amount of data? For the most part, I would think if we have a name and a phone number, at least. Some of us have people in our life that we're only connected over social media. So maybe it's going to start with a direct message. But for the most part, it's name and phone number. We make fun of everybody's command because you go in there and the data, I got a name, I got a phone number, probably an email address. We're usually lacking their physical address, even with the people that we sold the house to. I sold the Joneses 123 Main Street. I didn't write it down. I forgot where they actually live. That's the kind of stuff we want to flesh out. But collecting the minimum amount of valid contact information of a potential buyer or seller, that's capturing data. And that's part of an intake sheet. If it's a buyer calling in on one of your listings, or when you're first meeting somebody, just asking. And a lot of times you're going to get pushback. People will be like, well, I got a PO box. That's important. That's where I'll send mail. But I do want to know where you physically live, because I want to be able to do a neighborhood nurture for you, to talk about the experience you're having where you are, or talk about where you want to live. In the student guidebook, it asks you 4 questions. How are you currently capturing leads? What are we doing right now to capture leads? Who are we talking to? Megan, what are you doing now to capture leads? You're getting picked on because I can see your face. I'm not asking you to shut your camera off either. I'll track you down if you do that. What are you doing to capture leads? Who do you talk to?
I talk to everyone I possibly can.
Okay. What's the question you ask?
I just let them know that I'm a real estate agent, and yeah.
So when they find out you're a real estate agent, what do they say?
I give them my contact information, and
Okay.
you know,
There's no wrong answer. Go ahead. It's okay.
No, that's just, I just introduce myself and I start
Yep.
talking to them. It could be anything. I just try to I try to make a relationship, you know?
Sure. So they have your contact information. How do you get theirs?
I put it in my phone.
So how do you get it from them? Are you asking for it?
They're,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'll say like the other day I was at the park and I met a woman. She was, and I've gone on walks with her since.
Uh-huh.
And I just said, you know, let's exchange information because she, you know, she is looking for something. And then I sent her, you know, the application to do her like the finance part of it. And then she decided that her and her husband are gonna maybe in a year, but that's still a contact. And I think that,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I just try to start like a conversation. Yeah, that's it.
So the best I found for me, the best way to get people to ask you for your information, and obviously handing out your business card, you can just do that. No matter who they
Yeah, so
are.
is that
even-
what you were talking about with the electronic one?
Yeah, I mean, well, in the grand scheme of things, I know that we're real good at handing out business cards, or maybe we're good at getting our contact information to other people. Absent getting their contact information, that sort of leaves us with, you know, I'm just now hoping that that person calls me. Right? Because we do that a lot. We fall on that nerve sword all the time. We're like, well, here's my card. If you ever need anything, let me know. And
Yeah,
how many times have real estate agents done that to them? So I think the best way, and I know it feels sort of weird, especially if you know that she's a stay-at-home mom or whatever the case may be, or even your friend who is a starving artist, you know that they don't necessarily have a business card. I'd still ask them, do you have a card, or what's the best way for me to get in touch with you?
yeah,
I always ask them for their card first. That would induce the ask, because then they're going to ask you for yours.
yeah,
And I've always said to you guys, even if you have cards on you, I would share my app first.
yeah,
The best white lie in real estate is, oh, I just handed out my last card. Do you have your phone? And I'm going to share my app with them because, you know, it's a digital business card that they'll never lose, right?
yeah,
Then if I met them today and we had that exchange, my handwritten note to them tonight per Ignite, if I'm going to write them a handwritten note, I would drop a couple of business cards in that.
And what do you think about like the QR codes on cars?
A QR code on a car?
Yeah, like a magnet.
Well, there's no problem with that, but if they don't know what it means, if it's just a QR code, I don't know if I'm.
No. I made something. I made something that has everything that it's supposed to be on it. My name, Keller Williams, the phone number, all the information, and had it approved. So, but like from your experience, is that a good way to gain leads?
So I'll be honest with you. When I was selling, I didn't have a QR code. I was the guy that had the magnet. So picture this. I don't remember what year it was, maybe a 2003. I had a hideous Ford minivan for lacrosse and mountain bikes and two boys that smelled like lacrosse and mountain
French
bikes and two boys. Smelled like
Cheeseburgers
snacks
and yeah, I remember those days.
Yep. And I did have door magnets. I did have door magnets, but I didn't have a QR code. And I couldn't blame a single piece of my business on that. I don't necessarily think that was huge for me, but I think these days that QR code is a quick capture and people can grab it for sure. I don't think it's a problem. I wouldn't stake my whole future on it. That's all.
No.
Because again, that's a piece of marketing that's passive.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that people click that.
They're supposed to be done. I'm supposed to pick them up sometime today.
Yeah, I have no issue with it, but I want that to be one more way that you're maybe capturing some contact information from people. The QR code on the back of your physical business card, super smart. But in that interest, at that point, don't forget you have a QR code that's baked into your mobile app, right? So
Right.
your consumer app has all that stuff too. You have digital business cards now baked
Yep.
into Command Mobile. So there's a bunch of different ways to go about it. I just want to make sure that we're capturing their contact information and not hoping that they'll get in touch with us. Because that can be a falsehood that we're like, no, they'll definitely call me. And if we're hoping or we're depending upon that, that can be one of my favorite new words that I made up, troublematic. That can be troublematic for your future, right? So we want to make sure that we're getting their information and with permission to stay in touch, of course. You know, but I wouldn't just ask them for theirs. I would, to stay in contact, you have a card. Nobody's ever insulted if that you presume they have a card. It's like asking a buyer if this transaction is going to be cash. No one's ever insulted if we presume they're cash, you know. So we want to make sure per command, at the very least, we are getting their physical address, their name, their phone number, and their email. And then finding out how they want to stay in touch. How should we stay in touch with them? And then tagging those things. It asks here, what are your current lead categories and tags? Making sure that you know if they're a buyer or a seller or investor, making sure you know if they are, the woman that you met, does she have 2 golden retrievers? Is that important to her? We always talk about this. Like if somebody has a dog, they're a dog person, A. If they're a dog, and there are levels, I suppose, but most dog owners are fanatics. Their dog might be more important than their kids. Their dog might actually dictate where they're going to move next. Talk about Kate Grassy all the time. She has that whole box of dog bones in her truck, and she hands them. She'll meet somebody with a dog. She'll ask permission to give their dog a treat, and then it's a couple of treats in a bag with a business card stapled over the top, and on the back it says, "Do you need a bigger backyard?" And then what can you do to improve your current capture system? So think about, how am I asking? Am I delivering value when I ask? Because even if we're just getting started and they're like, well, yeah, I'll definitely give you a call. Well, I appreciate that. Hey, the reason I'm asking is if I ever do earn the right to work with you, I'd love to have all the information now. So when we get started, we can get started right away. Even if they tell you they're looking for a house and you have a conversation about what they're looking for, you can put a listing cart together for them. And they can start looking at listings today, even if they think they're 2 years out. I found more often than not, when we put listings in front of buyers who say they're 2 years out, they'll eventually see what they're looking for, and that expedites the time frame. Not to mention if the pushback is, well, Megan, hey, listen, we're about 2 years out. There's no need to set up a listing cart. I always said, I appreciate that, Mr. Lindsay. And I always use feel, felt, found. I love this blueprint. I understand how you feel. We had a lot of clients that felt the same way. What we found is when our buyer clients started to look at properties and started to look at the market and understand the market, when they became, when they were ready, when they became transactional, it was a much more enjoyable experience because they were coming into the market understanding where it stood and where they stood. And here's some questions, right? Conversation frameworks. If I were to need to contact you, what would that number be? We just talked about this. If I found exactly what you're looking for, how would I contact you? I would say that all the time. We start the search today. Hey, Mr. Lindsay, if the house we just described comes on the market in 10 minutes, would you be willing to leave the office to meet me at the property? Because that's going to engage their interest, right? We always joke about this. People are like, oh, it would have to be after work. Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Lindsay. If you were picking up your new Ferrari today, you'd leave the office at noon. If you had a root canal, you'd walk out at 10:15 in the morning. So just so I have some clarity, if I found the house you're looking for, and I'm at a broker open house on a Thursday at 1 p.m, and the listing agent, Megan Martinez, says that she's willing to stay a little bit late to show it to one of my clients, would you leave the office to meet me in Greenland at 2:15 for the right house for your family? Yeah, sure. Okay, awesome. Permission to call you when I find the house that we just described. Because that happens. They don't think it happens, but it happens. And it's fascinating what they'd be willing to leave the office for, but they won't do it for probably, arguably, the biggest transaction of their life. Even though they're buying Ferraris. If I found out that the information you were wanting, how would I get it to you? So we're asking for a phone number. We're asking for permission to reach out to them. We're asking for, that's an email, obviously. How would I get it to you? I wouldn't want to send a lot of information via text. Just copy and paste and text it to me. Nope. I'd like an email. Best practices for connecting. Embed your value proposition in the conversation. This can go one of two ways, I think, and we've talked about this quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. Everybody's looking for that elevator pitch. Your 15-second value proposition. Tim, why should I work with you? And I could ask a 30-year veteran, very few agents have an answer ready when you ask that question. Or even if they know what they want to say, they haven't said it enough that it doesn't sound clunky. If anybody ever asked me why they should work with me, I would say blah, blah, blah. I think the best response to that question is, and maybe to head it off as you're getting into conversation with somebody, to find out what the value proposition is just saying, hey, Mr. Lindsay, in your search for a realtor, what are some qualities you're looking for in your next real estate agent? Well, Tim, we'd want them to be punctual. I want them to be honest, and I want them to be a great negotiator. Because then we can sort of obviously spin that back and be like, great. And if you have a list of bullet points of all the things that you and your team do, I wouldn't make those the first 3 bullet points. That looks pretty ridiculous, but I put them in towards the top of the page. The other way I would always play this, if anybody ever said that to me, and it historically worked pretty well because it just changes the entire conversation. When somebody's putting up the stiff arm and saying, well, why would I want to work with you? It's a great question, Mr. Lindsay. And I'm not sure that we should work together. But if you have a few minutes, I'd love to ask some questions to find out more about what's important to you. Because you immediately are deflecting the, oh, thank God you want to work with me. And you're making sure that they understand that you have to determine whether you're a fit for them. It's not salesy, it's not greasy. Completely changes the dynamic of the conversation and makes them realize that you do deliver value. So much so, you're so friggin' confident about the value you deliver that you're willing to stay in discovery to find out if you're a fit. And I would use the inclusive language of, great question, Mr. Lindsay. I'm actually not sure we should work together, but I'd love to spend some time and ask a few more questions to find out if we are a fit. Nobody's getting that response. When people say, why should I work with you? Well, because I'm the greatest real estate agent on the planet. And like, we just start bloviating about our greatness. And as soon as you make it all about you, you're lost. The entire transaction is in service of them. So the humility of saying, I'm not sure that we should work together, but let's find out more about each other and make sure we are a fit. Would that be okay? They're always going to be like, sure, fire away, ask some questions. And if this is something you're struggling with on conversion, right? Because we can have a whole bunch of conversations, get to meet a whole bunch of people. If we're not getting to conference tables to sign buyers or kitchen tables to sign sellers, which invariably become buyers as well, unless they move into the woods, then it's a conversion conversation. So make sure when you join us Tuesdays and Thursdays for Fight Club, you want to go over that with somebody, find somebody in the room and ask them if they have somebody they script and role play with in the morning. Doing that before you do lead generation. Helps flex that muscle and get you prepared for those conversations. Understanding the outcome you want from a conversation before it starts. And using questions to lead it in that direction. And not in a salesy way. I'm not trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes and convince them to buy, sell, or invest. We're never going to be able to do that. Our job as real estate salespeople is to help the future client, to help our consumers make the decision that's appropriate for them. I want you guys to get every friggin' deal, don't get me wrong, but I need you to be excited for the opportunity and not tied to the outcome. Because if we start steering our conversations, the consumer is going to realize what's going on. It's going to come across as salesy. And every one of you has said to me at some point, Timmy, I don't want to sound salesy. Then don't. Stay curious. Make it all about them. Keep asking questions. I've said to you guys a million times, the 3 bullet points that will be on the back of my gravestone are going to be ask great questions, take great notes, have honest conversations. And people say, Tim, when you say ask great questions, what's a great question? A great question is the next one. Stay curious. Why are you guys moving to New Hampshire? My daughter is going to go to UNH. We want to be close to her and close to the campus. Awesome. What's important about that for you? We want to be near her so she has a support system. It's her first time ever being away from us. And we love New England. Awesome. What's the time frame? Well, she starts in August. We'd love to be there as soon as possible. Do you have something to sell, Mr. Lindsay? We do. But it's down here in Tennessee. Can you help with that? Of course I can. Random piece of useless knowledge, actually useful knowledge. His name is Rhett Campbell, R-H-E-T-T, Rhett Campbell. Phenomenal agent in Tennessee. And all I need to do is know Rhett Campbell, because guess what? If he doesn't service the area of Tennessee that my client's in, he knows somebody that does. Because great agents know great agents, right? And I just keep asking questions. Because I have a buyer intake sheet. Or a seller intake sheet, or both. I'm not going to sell their house in Tennessee, but I'm going to get the referral on it. One-stop shopping. I'm already making things easier for them because I kept asking questions. Well, I wouldn't bother trying to sell their house in Tennessee. They probably know somebody down there. What if they don't? And what if Rhett Campbell turns out to be a better suited realtor than the person they think they know? And I bet he is. So connection is all about staying curious and finding out more about them. They're going to learn about you on the way. So we use the 6 connection questions. And it's all about curiosity, right? Who, what, where, why, when, and how. Who are they? Find out about everyone that's moving. Find out about the other decision makers, who's on the deed, who's going to be involved in the mortgage. What do they want or need to do? They need to sell their house in Tennessee to move to New Hampshire, to follow their daughter to UNH. Where do they want or need to do it? They're going to sell their house in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and they probably want something in the Durham area. Why? To be closer to their daughter. That's their motivation. Because I can remind them of that when they start to grind about interest rates, when they start to grind about the cost or the stress. Remind them their motivation was to be with their daughter. There's nothing more important than that for them. But we got to remind them sometimes why they started. When do they want or need to do it? By the time the house is sold, she will have graduated high school in Tennessee, and they can come this way. Let's get started now. Even if they put it on the market in Tennessee and it sells overnight, they can still put in a suitable housing clause. the right buyer is going to be on their time frame. And how do they plan to do it? The list and the buy. Is it going to be cash? Do they need the funds from the transaction in Tennessee to execute the transaction in New Hampshire? Who, what, where, why, when, and how? The connection questions. Here's some samples. This is in the student workbook on page 110. Great questions for anybody, right? What are you looking for in your dream home? If this is their last move and they want their dream home. They want single floor living because they're getting older. What happens if you can't find a house to buy? Because we want them to think about what the pain would be if we don't move expeditiously. Have you seen any houses you like? Where have you been looking? What's prompting the move? When do you want to be in your new home? This is so important. We talk to people over the winter all the time, and they're like, well, I want to move in the spring. Well, do they want to be in the house on March 21st, or they want to start the process on March 21st? Spring is a big fat word. We want clarity. Do you own where you currently live? Will you be selling that or cash flowing that? How have you been searching? When did you start your search? What's the time frame for the move? Are you currently working with somebody? You'd ask the question, have you talked with a real estate agent about selling your current home? And I would not, it's not that I wouldn't ask this question. I never asked it this way. Are you pre-approved with a lender? I always asked, is this transaction going to be cash? Because that one question would normally get a nervous laugh, and they would answer three things for me. If I said, is this transaction going to be cash for you, Mr. Lindsay? A little nervous laugh. I'm like, oh no, we got to talk to a lender. I now know they're not cash. They're going to be financed, and they haven't started the process yet. And no one's ever offended that you presume that they're cash. They're leaving that interaction thinking, wow, they must work with a lot of cash buyers. And you guys have a price range in mind, which is going to get solidified when they get pre-approved, or if they're cash. They obviously still know what their price range is. They might get pre-approved for $950. They might only want to spend $675. It's obviously going to be dependent on where they want to live and what they want to have for amenities. Sellers. How did you hear about us, right? Because don't forget, buyers go online to look for properties. Sellers start their search for the right person to sell their home. So that's why prospecting is important to find clients when we're searching, but our marketing is also important. We want to make sure we tell our story. If the seller is not in a relationship with us, all they have is our reputation. So what is your online reputation to a seller that's never met you? How have you told the story of you or your team? Asking the seller, what's the address, so you can start to put together that equity update, that comparative market analysis, the CMA. Asking them what's prompting the move, their time frame. When do you have to or want to be out of your home? Are you currently working with somebody? I would move that closer to the top. I always want to know if they're working with another agent, so I'm not crossing a sign. Are you interviewing agents? I'd love to apply for the job. Also important with sellers. So you're going into that conversation with enough information is, how much do you think your home is worth? Spoiler alert, they always think it's worth more than it is. Cultivating. You can't know or predict when they will come to a decision. But if you're reconnecting with them in a systematic way, you'll have a great chance of being there when they do. You can't know or predict when they'll come to a decision, but if you're reconnecting with them in a systematic way, you'll have a great chance of being there when they do. So important. That's page 105 and shift. That's when you'll be able to close for an appointment. The humans are not scratch tickets. We can't presume that we're going to show up at the perfect moment. And the average American moves every 5 to 7 years. So how are we showing up in the gap? In asking for an appointment, which format do you think is most effective? Text message. I don't think I actually ever texted somebody, when do you want to meet? Unless it was a friend for dinner. Email, I feel the same way about. These are my limiting beliefs because I never had success with those two. On the phone or in person, for sure. Because I wasn't normally texting or emailing out of the blue, when do you want to get together? It was in the midst of a conversation when their emotion is rich, right? Logic makes them think, emotion makes them act. I get them talking about the process. And again, even if they're pushing off and they're saying, well, we're not ready to get started yet. I appreciate that, Mr. Lindsay. That's exactly why we should get together. Let's start to put together a plan. In my team's experience, anxiety only exists where there's lack of a plan. So if we start to put together a roadmap of what you want this experience to look like, when you're ready to get started, we can just go. And that's coming on the heels of a conversation when we talked about the velocity of the market, the current opportunity, which is huge right now if you're a seller. There's about 4 houses available in North America today. I'm joking. It's not 4, but it's not 4 million either. Friendly reminder, and again, for historical context, if somebody watches this later, it is Wednesday, April 26, 2023. We currently have less homes available in the state of New Hampshire that are actively listed than our market center normally carries. I'm going to repeat that. Available active listings in the state of New Hampshire right now, just New Hampshire. There are fewer than what we would normally carry as a market center on a regular basis. That's how much the market has changed. Does not mean it's not a good time to list. It means we have to get out and edumacate. Yeah, there was an M in there. We have to get out there and educate the general public because they're getting horrible, capital double H, horrible information from cable news, horrible information from Fat Uncle Tony, all the experts in their life. We have to be the local economist of choice. And I found either on the phone or in person, asking them when they want to get started. Primarily the phone. Because if you're with them, you can sit and get started now. We don't have to run back to the office and get the paperwork. It's all online, right? Gary says in Shift, in the end, if they can meet and have a good enough reason to meet, they will meet. And if they don't, they won't. And that's okay. You really don't care what their answer is. Ultimately, it's because you're not getting people to do anything they don't want to do. You're just going to ask and respond until they agree that meeting with you makes sense. Or it doesn't. Either way, you both win. Gary has hammered this for years. We're never going to convince somebody to buy, sell, invest. Or if it's a fellow realtor at another brokerage, we're not going to convince somebody to come join us and play with us until it's appropriate for them. And we have to be okay with the fact that the outcome is theirs. The opportunity is ours. So how do we improve our conversion rate when we're following up with leads? Your conversion rate is the rate at which you get every lead to an appointment. And again, think about this, all the people in your life, all the people in your command, all the people in your phone, everyone that you know, at some point is going to be transactional. Again, we don't know when that's going to be. So how do we stay connected consistently enough that we magically appear at the right time? And we don't magically appear, we just never left. That's my point. We keep showing up every day. And it's not every day, but you're there consistently enough. There's a text or an email or a phone call, or you invite them to an event. So much so that you show up as a human in the gap. So much so that they understand that when they do become transactional in real estate, of course you're the natural choice. Why wouldn't they want to work with you? You've never been salesy. You just keep showing up. That's going to take time blocking. Words that we all hate: time block, lead gen, scripting. But it's true. If you look at your calendar, show me your schedule, I'll show you your future. And for those of us in Ignite right now, and the reason we put Ignite in the morning is because we're teaching you the business at this point. And we do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tuesday and Thursday, we've got Fight Club, so you can actually have the conversations. Are you guarding your mornings, right? We always say win the morning, win the day. Are you guarding your mornings to make sure that you're growing your business? We grow our business in the morning, we run it in the afternoon. And if it gets to the afternoon and you don't have any appointments, we make sure we have more conversations. A lead is an at bat. And if we're hitting the ball consistently enough, we're working on the art of hitting the ball consistently enough, we'll start to drive it out of the infield. We'll get some hits, we'll make some contacts. And that's not just going to be us on the phone. We're going to use systems and conversations. We're going to use smart plans and campaigns. We're going to use all the tools we have to stay in touch with people. We want to make sure we're connecting with everybody in the database. Because the rules of the database are to open it, build it, feed it every day, communicate with it consistently, and then service the leads that come from it. So when we get to stage 4, we start to figure out who's ready to do something, no matter what the time frame is. You might talk to somebody today that wants to get started this weekend. You're going to be at the kitchen table talking to them about listing their house in May, next week. God, it's next week. Holy Lord. Somebody might sit with you and say, yeah, we're going to get started after the 4th of July. That's okay. Their time frame is their time frame. We're here to serve when they're ready. We don't have one customer. We don't have one client. We have a myriad of them. Every person you work with is another paycheck. This is not corporate America. We're not going to get paid every 2 weeks because we just keep showing up. You can get paid as much as you want based on the conversations and conversion rates you have. So capturing people, getting into conversations with people, earning the right to stay in touch with them, and getting, at the very least, a name and a phone number, a name and an email. Making sure moving forward, we get a physical address. If they give you a PO box, you still want the physical address. Don't fight them for it, but ultimately we want that so we can use all the tools in command. And the email address. All of that information is important so we can run a smart plan to stay in touch with them for the next 5 or 6 years. So we keep showing up. Then we want to connect to assess their needs and establish that relationship. Cultivating is just staying in touch. The proximity effect, right? You met them once. You asked them in 1932 if they have any questions about real estate, and they said, no, I'm all set. And then you said, well, they got my information. They'll call me when they need me. No, they're going to run into somebody else. And the real estate agent that's closest, that happens to show up at the right time, if it wasn't consistently you with a system and a model, is going to get their business. That's why the database is so important. That's why a smart plan is so important. And we might ask for the appointment for years. And then eventually they're ready and they say yes. So today at noon in the Shark Tank, Melissa is doing a Command Your Contacts class. This video here, Keep Your Eyes on Opportunities, is baked in at kwclmtraining.com. If you ever go to kwclmhub.com, where all the information for our company is, right on the homepage, it's going to say training videos. That's our training portal, kwclmtraining.com. And there's a 15-minute video in there, as you can see on the bottom of the screen. Keeping your eyes on opportunities. I think we get in our own heads about our systems and our models, and we feel like if I put somebody into a smart plan, I'm doing it to manage them. Correction, we're doing it to manage us. I'm putting all my people into a database so I can manage my relationship with them, not manage their relationship with me. Don't forget the minimum amount of conversations we're striving for. And I understand if people struggle getting to 10. If you're getting started, 10's a heavy lift. I get that. 10's going to be a heavier lift if we don't give ourselves the opportunity to have those conversations. That can take place anywhere. Megan talked about meeting somebody in the park. Wherever you run into humans, engaging with them and just being a human. You're out walking your dog, you run into somebody else walking their dog. Awesome. Do you hand them the card right then? Maybe. You just stay in relationship with them until it becomes natural that it comes up. You finally ask each other what you do for a living. They work in an IT department for some company over on Pease, and you're involved in real estate. And they're looking to right size to a bigger house because they're expecting another short person. How serendipitous that you happen to stay in touch. So storyboard who you're going to talk to. We talk about this all the time. Your intent tomorrow during Fight Club is to have 10 conversations. Write down tonight, who are the 20 people I'd love to talk to tomorrow? And you'll notice in the morning news, that email that you get at 7:14 down in the corner where it says the date, 90 days out, I think right now is July 25th. And right under that, it says DTD2. DTD2 sounds like a Star Wars character. I understand that. It's not. It's do the database 2. When you do the database 2, it's telling you which 2 letters you should be calling this week and the letter that you should text. So if you don't know who to reach out to tomorrow, it gives you the 2 letters. You can go into your phone, find your 10 people, figure out what you're going to talk to Stacy about, Kyle about, Jeff about, Tim about, and storyboard your conversation so it's all about them. What's eventually going to come up? Work's going to come up. They're going to rave about their job, bitch about their job, and then they'll eventually ask you, how's work? If they don't know where you work, you got to remind them you got your license now. Thanks for asking. Jane Savage shared the other day that she's using 90 days right now. So May, June, July. I want to help 9 more families by August 1st. Who do you know that I should know? Who do you know that we can help? They're gonna say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, we're looking for listings for our buyers, buyers for our listings, and talent for our team. Because I can get a listing signed or a buyer signed, or find out some new talent that might want to join real estate. Those are all money-making activities for me. Then based on those conversations, let's do our handwritten notes. They don't need to be expensive note cards. It doesn't need to be embossed. It doesn't need to be branded to you. I would go to the Christmas tree shop and get 8 million butterfly note cards for $10. Handwritten notes set you apart. It's one more thing that is extraordinary that not enough people do. But if you start to do it, it will set you apart. 1051 is our 10 hearts or likes on social media. What are you loving or liking on social media to stay interactive with other people? Leaving 5 comments of 5 words or more. And then 1 post of your own, or if you find something intriguing that you want to share somebody else's information. Somebody's doing a fundraiser, share that. Don't forget about the TCPA, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Do not call.gov. You're going to be calling people that you don't know. You're calling unmets. You want to make sure they're not on the do not call list. So you go to do not call.gov. And you scan for the person you're about to call. The best way to avoid this is just calling people that you already know that are in your phone. The violation for that is $43,280 per violation. Not worth it. Do not call.gov. Get yourself an account. I engage in every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in relationship with me. Bold had an affirmation that was their home, they're happy, and they're going to list with me. Either way, telling yourself that when you do make your calls, when you do engage with people, you offer value. You can answer questions. You're the source of real estate for them. Questions, comments, concerns as we wrap up? We've left them in stunned silence. We'll be back on Friday for session 12, strengthening relationships for Ignite 6.0. Thank you guys for your time. We'll see you in and around the Market Center. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care.